Preparing learners for practice, motivation and attention. Motivation. Teachers, therapists, and coaches frequently point to motivation as the key to success. They were not the most talented team, but won anyways because they were highly motivated. Highly motivated individuals often achieve performance goals in spite of challenging situations and physical limitations. People who are motivated work harder, persevere longer, and are more focused. Based upon the available literature, we will conceive PF motivation as describing a state or condition of an individual that is internal, i.e., a need, desire, want, or other state, directed toward the accomplishment of some general or specific goal. Energizing, i.e., promotes the intensity of behavior involved in maintaining persistence of the motivated behavior. The importance that motivation plays in the learning of motor skills is obvious. Unless they are sufficiently motivated, people will neither have the interest nor maintain the effort needed to persevere towards motor learning goals. Patients in physical therapy settings may become unmotivated, thereby hindering their progress toward recovery. Even competitive athletes, usually considered highly motivated in their sporting pursuits, may become discouraged in the face of competition for tram positions, or from defeat in competitive contests, with the result being a decline in level of both motivation and performance. Characteristics of motivation. Activation is the easiest characteristic of motivation to observe. Activation observed in the production of behavior within individuals is a person behaving in some way. If some degree is present, even if minimally so, then a person is assumed to be motivated. That is, it is assumed that motivation initiates and is manifested through some form of overt behavior, some action that can be observed. An individual level motivation may simply to be insufficient to trigger an overt expression of behavior. At other times, the individual might be highly motivated in a way that is expressed through the suppression of overt behaviors. A second characteristic of motivation expressed through activation is persistence. The persistence of behavior is one of primary characteristics indicating both presence and strength of motivation. People typically don't persist in activities for which they have little motivation. If two people begin a 12-week aerobics program, and one person drops out after only a few sessions, while the other person perseveres for the entire 12 weeks, we assume that the person completing the program was more motivated than the person who dropped out. Of course, there could be other reasons than lack of motivation behind why the one person dropped out of training, and these would have to be investigated before any definitive conclusion regarding the influence of motivation could be determined. A third characteristic of motivation based upon activation is energy or vigor. Both laboratory and casual observations suggest that highly energetic behavior is more motivated than is less energetic behavior. The person who visually exerts greater effort during a practice session is most likely more motivated than the person lethargically going through the motions. The person who stays after an athletic practice to continue rehearsing new skills is probably more motivated than the person who does not. The second characteristic of motivation is directionality. Directionality, the specific behaviors indicating a person's level of motivation. As we have just seen, overt behavioral responses, persistence, and energy level are considered properties indicating the presence and intensity of motivation. Activation, however, is only one of two major characteristics of motivation. This is because, as a number of researchers have pointed out, activation alone does not adequately account for the fact that humans are more or less continuously active. This has led researchers to propose a second characteristic, directionality, when analyzing motivation. What causes motivation? What causes people to be motivated? What specific factors best motivate people? Are there even best motives? Why do two people perform exactly the same behaviors, yet they are motivated by different reasons? One of the perplexing problems confronting scientists attempting to understand motivation, as practitioners attempting to motivate behaviors in those whom they instruct, is that people are motivated by a wide variety of situational factors and personal goals. Before examining the underlying causes of motivation, consider just some of the many everyday reasons motivating people to engage in exercise behaviors. I will show a table that shows the number of different reasons people exercise. As illustrated to the table, people are motivated for many different reasons. But what do these many reasons have in common? In the study of motivation, at least 3 different points of view have been identified as explanations of the factors responsibility for motivation. Although most researchers also assume some overlap among all of those factors. Innate factors. Scientists across many scholarly fields of study have debated the relative contributions to human behavior of innate versus acquired tendencies for over 100 years. Early theorists saw motivation as controlled by innate factors they labeled instincts. These early views did not last, but today many theorists still believe that genetic factors are the primary determinants of motivation. This perspective is called the trait-centered view of motivation and holds that motivated behaviors are primarily the products of individual characteristics that are genetically determined. In this view, personality, needs, and attitudes are studied as the prime motives shaping motivation in sport, exercise, and movement-based performance. Acquired factors. In contrast to the trait-centered view, is the contention that motivates are primarily acquired through experience. In this view, individuals learn the motives plays central roles in the development of a person's motivations. Early childhood experiences are believed to form the strongest motivation. But even such early acquired motive states can be reshaped through adult learning. The most important instructional principle to emerge from this view is probably the concept of intensive motivation. This is the notion that individuals learn that some behavior results in greater reward do others, and they seek out the greatest reward when deciding among alternative behavioral choices. From an instructional standpoint, this view of acquired, motivational states leads to a focus on situational factors. Unlike a trait-centered view, where instructors attempt to identify underlying personality traits and devise individualized approaches to motivate behavior. The opposing view that motivations are learned leads to a focus on situational factors and how they are rewarded. From this view, instructors will look for the most effective ways of changing learning experiences and then provide rewards and punishments to reinforce desired actions, which in turn presumably will shape the individual learner's motivations in desired ways. A combination of innate and acquired factors. In recent years, an increasing number of researchers and practitioners have come to view motivation as a function of both innate and acquired factors. In this view, innate characteristics are held to impose certain predispositions for motives, though with room also remaining for the learning of new motive states within established personality structures. Researchers promoting this view hold that personality has genetically defined parameters, but that it is also much more flexible and adaptable than previously conceived. Even within fixed general personality frameworks, there remains ample opportunity for significant reshaping of motivated behaviors. Factors influencing motivation. Having considered the underlying causes of motivation, we turn next to a consideration of situational factors influencing motivation. Although the situational factors motivating people's behavior are complex and multidimensional, four factors are especially important in understanding those motives underlying the performance and learning of motor skills. These include 1. The relevance of the task to the learner, to the level of task difficulty. 3. The learner's perception of control. And 4. Feelings of progress and success in meeting task goals. Relevance of task. We can begin by noting the obvious facts that people will seldom engage, at least with any enthusiasm, in activities that they do not see as relevant to their interest, needs, or desires. Matching the outcome of learning a new skill to the motives and needs of individuals can be a challenging task for instructors, but it is an essential one if practice is to be most productive and meaningful. Level of task difficulty. The level of task difficulty also plays a majority role in shaping an individual's motivation. Tasks that are presented at the higher level of difficulty given a performer's abilities or state of learning will result in frustration and anxiety, weakly extinguishing any motivation there might have originally been for the task. Perception of control. Another reason that task must be presented at appropriate level of difficulty is to help facilitate the learning perception of control over his or her own learning. Considerable research supports the observation that those who believe that they have control over whether they will learn are more likely to exhibit higher levels of motivation than are those who believe that they have little control over their learning outcomes. The effective instructor can do much help to enhance learners' sense of control, besides assuring that the activities practiced much pointing out learners' successes and progress. Keeping practice experiences enjoyable can help to reduce learners' anxiety and enhance motivation. Success in meeting task goals. Generally, the more successful an individual is in a given situation, the more he or she will be motivated. Those who experience little success in their practice or performance attempts become discouraged and less motivated. A major reason that low-skilled performers so often exhibit little motivation for an activity is because they have experienced little success in it. A person's perception of success can be dramatically influenced by the way task goals are presented. In establishing the criteria against which instructors will make evaluations and learners will judge the success of their actions, instructors can focus attention either on how an individual's performance compares to others, called peer reference judgments, or on how it compares to the learner's previous performances, called self-reference judgments. In a peer reference judgment situation, performance is competitive and the individual learner has little control over his or her own success. Instead, it is the quality of others' performances that determines how learners will be judged and how they will judge themselves as being successful or not. In self-reference judgment situations, however, learners judge the results of their practice experiences against their own previous levels of performance. Guidelines for promoting motivation. To summarize the factors important in promoting and maintaining ELS guidelines of motivation, mind in when learners planning motor practice skill, instructors should keep the following. Devise methods the tasks to help the individuals learn it are understand relevant tone their appreciate needs, desires and interests. Evaluate an individual's abilities and readiness to learn in order to determine requirements the most appropriate are challenging skill level but attainable for practice. Being sure that practice requirements are challenging but attainable. Provide opportunities empowering individuals to determine their own practice goals and practice experience is where appropriate. Provide ample attempts for individuals to experience success in their practice attempt, focusing at least some practice goals on increasing personal performance levels, rather than on absolute performance measures or comparisons to performances of others. Shaping the motivational climate. Although learners may come to skills practice situations already sufficiently motivated, how the motor skills, instructor structures, and instruct learning experience will typically play the most significant role in learners' continued levels of motivation. By considering the 4 factors shaping motivation presented above, Motor skills instructors can create a supportive motivational climate. Motivational climate consists of instructional and design factors that combine to motivate the behaviors of participants in a practice or performance context, and is typically conceived of as enhancing motivation in appropriate ways. Goal setting. Virtually everyone comes to a skill learning situation with some goal or goals in mind. I want to beat my sister in tennis. I want to learn to tango. I want to regain the full use of my knee that was operated on. I want to bat 300 next season. A common feature of skill learning is that it is goal-directed. People engage in practice, often long and laboriously so, because they have some goal that they want to achieve. Although nearly everyone has a goal or goals that he or she wants to achieve as a result of practice, not all goals are equally beneficial in promoting learning. Setting goals for practice may be a natural human propensity, but to be effective, goals must be specified and implemented correctly. Goals that are either too challenging or insufficiently challenging, unattainable given a person's physical abilities or limitations, unrealistic based on previous experiences, or too vaguely specified can lead to frustration and feelings of failure, typically resulting in a loss of motivation, diminished learning, and often withdrawal from further practice altogether. To be effective, goals must be challenging, attainable, realistic, and specific. These qualities of effective goals can be remembered by the acronym CARS: challenging, attainable, realistic, specific. Performance goals focus upon an individual's improvement relative to his or her previous performances and are absolutely under the control of the individual. Target for skills improvements in comparison to a person's previous skill level. Process goals. To perform a skill at the level desired, as well as meet outcome goals, a person must able to perform the skill sufficient well. Process goals focus on particular aspect of skill execution. Targets for skill improvement that emphasize the quality of a movement. Setting goals. It directs the learner's attention to important elements of the skill. The goal increase the learner's effort and intensity. The goal increase the learner's effort and intensity. It encourage persistence in the face of failure, adversity, or lack of immediate progress. It promotes the development of new learning strategies. Guidelines for goal settings. 1. Set a specific goals. It should be stated in specific, measurable terms. 2. Set moderately difficult but realistic goals. Goals should challenge the learner. It should be easy and attainable. Goals that are easy to achieve quickly result in losing interest and reducing effort. Goals that are too difficult to achieve leads to frustration, loss interest, and poor performance. To be effective, goals should be balanced. 3. Set both long-term and short-term goals. Long-term goals provide ultimate targets for learners and motivate adherence. Sustained effort. If long-term goal can make learners quickly become frustrated when fail to see sufficient progress. Short-term intermediate goals provide a sense of progress and encourage learners to continue working forward the long-term goals of practice. It's important you link the short-term as part of progression, leading to success in attaining long-term goals. 4. Set outcome, performance, and progress goals. The best way of achieving outcome goals is to focus attention on performance and process goals. Outcome goals are important in encouraging continued participation. 5. Record and display goals. Number of studies has shown that learners must be frequently reminded of their performance goals. Recording goals and prominently displaying them in manner that invites frequent review is an effective way of accomplishing this. 6. Develop goal achievement strategies. Strategies should also be flexible for the learners to adapt to new situations as needed or as they discover better methods of promoting goal outcomes. 7. Consider the learner's personality and motivation when setting goals. In helping the learner, the practitioner should take consideration of the unique characteristics of each learner. Consideration of previous experience, ability level, age, and any physical limitations may play a significant role in setting goals. Practitioners will be sensitive to individual needs and personalities, as well as learn about previous experience and expectations when establishing performance goals. 8. Foster a learner's goal commitment. Practitioners should involve learners fully in the goal-setting process and provide constant encouragement and feedback concerning the accomplishment of those goals. Monitoring progress towards goals on chart or other records provided to a learner is one effective method. 10. Limit the number of goals set, especially initially. It is a common mistake beginners at goal setting often make in setting too many goals. It will also affect the monitoring process, where setting many goals makes it impossible to evaluate and attain the specific goals. It is recommended to set 1 or 2 short-term goals, and other goals can be added gradually. Attention. The direction of conscious mental resources toward specific sensory stimuli. Its relationship to motor performance and learning has both theoretical and practical importance. The theoretical importance lies in the fact that attention underlies the processes of memory and learning, central to an understanding of how motor skills are acquired from cognitive theoretical perspective. From a practical perspective, attention plays a central role in nearly every facet of executing a motor skill. Characteristics of attention. Attention as consciousness. Consciousness is defined as awareness, which may refer both to one's awareness of internal psychological states and of those things making up the external environment. Of particular interest has been discovered that conscious and unconscious neutral process explain the differences observed between automatic and controlled skills. Example: skills controlled by automatic unconscious process relatively resistant forgetting as ages, while uncontrolled skills are processed using conscious attentional resources, are much likely decline as a result of aging. Attention as effort or arousal. Attention requires mental effort, driving in heavy traffic, studying for exam, and learning. Complex motor skills are accompanied by mental work that leaves participant exhausted. The amount of mental work required of attentional process measures by increase in physiological measures of arousal such as respiration, heart rate, and galvanic skin resistance. Attention as limited resource. The concept of attention as a limited resource is an essential feature of information processing models of motor control. People are limited in their capacity. There are limits in how many things we can attend one at a time. Although we may be able to switch back and forth from one thing to another if the items require a relatively little attentional effort, we can perform two tasks at a time if the skill is learned and automatic. For example, driving a car while carrying a conversation. A corollary to the concept of attention as a limited capacity is the idea of selective attention. It is the concept that we can direct our limited attentional resources to specific tasks or environment features among various alternatives that are presented. Theories of attention. Bottleneck theory. These are typically been termed as filter or bottleneck theories. In this approach, cognitive processes involved in information processing occur in serial order, and each stage of processing must be completed prior to the initiation of processing activities for additional stimuli entering the processing stage. The perspective that attention is limited to the processing of only one or two chunks of information at a time, which must be completed before additional sensory information can be processed. Psychological refractory period. The delay in responding to the second of two stimuli occurring closely in time. Central resource theories assume that attention is like a monthly paycheck. is a fixed and limited amount of mental capital that is available to expend on attentional needs. The perspective that attention consists of a limited resources pool from which one must decide how much attention to allocate among competing needs. Arousal. General physiological and psychological activation of an individual varies from a state of sleep to extreme excitement. Anxiety. Feelings of threat or apprehension in a given situation, accompanied by an increasing state of arousal. Selective attention can be either incidental or intentional. Incidental typically involves some features of our external involvement suddenly capturing our attention, such as a loud noise, the face of a friend, or being hit by unexpected raindrops or sunlight. The human capacity for choosing among the many sources of sensory information to which one's attention could be directed. Directing attention. In helping the learners direct their selective attentional resources to the most critical aspect of the practice environment. Direction of focus varies between external focus attending to the desired consequence of action and internal focus attending to the bodily movement that will produce the desired action. Based upon a combination of these two dimensions, identify four distinct styles of attentional focus. Attentional focus. The allocation of attentional resources along dimensions of width of focus broad to narrow and directions of focus external and internal. Broad external attentional focus. The performer must attend to and remain aware of several environmental cues at the same time, shifting focus constantly among changing aspects of external environment. Skill for which this attention